All right, welcome everybody to the Voting Advisory Council meeting for today on Tuesday, December 2nd. My name is Jeff Salt. I'm chairman of this advisory council. Welcome everybody. And we'll start off with introductions, starting with members of the advisory council and then the advisory people and then the public. Jenny, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I am Jenny Knudsen, West Jordan, Utah, and boating sports, water sports.
And George.
George Summer, a boating advisory council member, I think representing angling.
Okay. Jason. I think Jason's still muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Jason down in Moab, and I'm representing the outfitters.
And John. I think you're still muted too. Hello, John. Okay, DeWitt.
Yes, from a snowy Heber, representing sailing.
All right.
And John finally made it back in here.
Okay, hi, John. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm John. I'm the Larson Commissioner out in Uinta County, also a member at large.
Okay. And Brian.
How you guys doing? I'm Brian Kurt. I'm the lieutenant for the boating program.
And Craig.
Craig Walker, I'm the Assistant Chief of Fisheries for the Division of Wildlife Resources out of Salt Lake.
Okay. And let's see who else is down on the list. Jorge.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jorge Vasquez with the Division of Outdoor Recreation, Recreation Grant Analyst.
And Patrick.
Hey, everyone. I'm Patrick. I'm a Recreation Program Director here at the Division of Outdoor Rec.
Okay. And then I see listed some ZDNR. Are those people? Do we know,
No.
Paul?
So they're going to be our AV.
Those are AV.
Mhm.
Okay. And is there anybody else that hasn't said hello or identified themselves? Anybody from the public?
Mr. Chairman, this is Paul with the AV team. The public are able to join and view by default, but at this time, they would need to raise their virtual hand if you wish to bring them into the meeting. This is to help protect the integrity of the meeting and keep the decorum so that it's in your control as opposed to being prone to different troll attacks.
Got it. Okay.
And
I saw a couple of hands that popped up, John and Brian. Were those just inadvertent hands or?
Yeah, mine was. Sorry.
Okay. It looks like Ty has joined. Ty, would you like to say hello and introduce yourself? Hello, Ty. I think he's still muted. Hello, Ty. Well, Ty Hunter has joined. He's the boating program manager, director, coordinator. So thank you all for being here on a holiday type of day. Let's start off by having the review of our meeting minutes from our last meeting. And we'll give a minute or two for additional scanning through the minutes, and then I'll be looking for a motion regarding accepting the minutes as presented or if there are any amendments.
This is Larson. I'd make a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, so John Larson moved to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And who's that?
Duet.
Duet.
Second.
Yeah, you want to be sure to state your name because we're all meeting pretty much virtually here, so.
You're muted. Hey, Ty, your speaker down there in the bottom right is an X, so you need to turn your sound on.
There we go. Thank you for finding that.
Hello, Ty.
We got it.
Okay. All right, and so any discussion about the minutes, the motion? Oh, who else do we have in the room there? Is that Adam?
I'm here.
Do you want to introduce yourself? I'm sorry, I didn't see you there earlier.
No, that's fine. I'm Adam Eagle. I'm on the board. I can't recall my title with the board, but I'm on the board. Motor voters.
And Jason, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Jason Curry, Director of the Division of Outdoor Recreation.
Okay, and there's somebody at the end of the table, it looked like, from the public.
Kent Singleton.
Kent Singleton, okay, thank you for coming. All right, so we're in the middle of any discussion on the minutes. If not, then we'll have a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please say aye.
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 Are there any members of the council opposed to accepting the minutes? Okay, it looks at any abstentions. Okay, well, the minutes are approved. Thank you very much for that. The next item on our agenda is a standing item that we open up the meeting for members of the public if they have an issue or a comment to address in front of this advisory council. We limit the comments to 3 minutes, and we really don't take action or have interaction on these comments, and they must be a comment that's not an item that's already on the agenda for today. So are there any, if you're joining virtually, then you'll want to go through a process of raising their hand, virtual hand, to be accepted into the meeting. And is there anybody in the meeting at the DNR office that would want to make a comment at this time?
You didn't. Okay, Mr. Singleton would like to.
Okay.
Is that my phone or yours?
And be sure to identify yourself as you start your comment.
No, but I hear it somewhere else. Thank you. Chair, council members, thank you for your time. I'm back again to update you. My name is Kent Singleton, 77-year-old senior and property owner in Taggart. I'm here because of a chain of government actions, starting with the Morgan County Council meeting on May 21st, 2019, created on an illegal public access point on my driveway. And every state agency involved in this river system now uses that action to avoid responsibility under the PWAA and property rights law. Please let me explain exactly what happened. Number one, the county created a public recreation area on my property without notifying me. On May 21st, 2019, Morgan County held a public council meeting. I had owned the property less than 10 days. The council talked openly about needing access through the new owners, yet I was never notified, even though state law and basic due process require that a landowner be notified when their private property is being discussed or designated. In that meeting, they declared my driveway a park and recreation area. Even though the county did not own the land, I had just purchased it. The action directly affects the use and value of my property. Number two, the agency deflection loop. Everyone points to someone else. For 6 years, every agency has refused enforcement. Meanwhile, commercial outfitters with 300 to 500 clients a day, thousands of floaters, and licensed fishermen, hunters, and trappers use my property without my permission, without insurance, and without compensation, because the government signs are literally directing them to enter and exit the river onto my land. Yet I alone, a senior Utah landowner, carry 100% of the liability. Number 3, PWAA and ignored grant requests. The Public Waters Access Act allows only incidental touching of a private stream bed. My stretch has no navigable for title determination. I have repeatedly issued grammar requests for the state's navigability list. Those grammars have been ignored that I continue to ask for today. Please treat this speech as a continuation of those grammars. Number 4, final, why I'm asking the BAC to act today. I'm asking the Voters Advisory Council to, number 1, acknowledge that my driveway is being used. Number 2, recognize that the PWAA is not being followed. Number 3, the call of DNR and DWR to comply with GRAMA and produce the required navigability for title list. Until Morgan County corrects the record, state agencies will not act except to participate in giving my 78-year-old wife a criminal trespass citation on August the 20th, 2022.
3 minutes has elapsed.
Excuse me?
3 minutes has elapsed.
Yeah, we have your 3 minutes.
I have 1 sentence left. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, I'm seeking 6 months jail time and $2,000 fine. And until the state acts, my rights as a private landowner remain violated. I'm asking you to help break that loop today, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singleton. Are there any other comments from the public?
May I enter this for public record, please?
Sure. You probably want to give that to Jorge. Oh, Jorge, you're not there, are you?
I'm here online.
Okay, so maybe Ty, would you mind accepting that? Thank you. Okay, on to the rest of our agenda. So we are meeting primarily today to go over the grants that we have coming up and to get a sense of how the scoring will be handled. And so I will now turn time over to Jorge and Craig to start our discussion on the Clean Vessel Act grant and boating access grant.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Hopefully you guys don't get really tired of me speaking today because it's basically going to be the entire meeting here. But just to kind of give you a quick overview again, just as a reminder of what this meeting is for. Again, it's just to kind of help you understand the actual grants and like the process that we're going to be taking, as well as just taking any additional comments or advice as you see the process. As I lay it out here today, I'm again also going to be towards the bottom of this agenda has committee scoring requests. So any comments or thoughts on just to kind of ways to potentially make this better for even the future, that kind of thing. We're always looking to get better and grow and make things a little bit easier for everybody here, especially when it comes to having to score lots of grants. And as we progress throughout the years, I anticipate that we'll have probably more and more applications to kind of go through, and so we'll have to make things a little bit more efficient. And so yeah, that's just kind of general overview here. But again, just to kind of give you a quick overview, what the grants that we'll be looking at for this upcoming scoring meeting in January, we'll be looking at the first one, the Clean Vessel Act, which has a total of 2 applications. It's not going to be too complicated for y'all in that sense. We'll be looking at the scoring matrix for that one, and I'll give you an overview of that grant itself, as well as boating access. I'll actually pass it over to Craig to kind of give you a brief overview on that one. But we have a scoring matrix as well on that. And then just kind of general instructions. Again, we're trying to improve, and we're trying to make things a little bit easier, especially since just kind of considering some of the things that we went through last year. But I'll just jump right into it with the first one with Clean Vessel Act here. Just to kind of give you a quick reminder, I don't think we actually even got to necessarily score Clean Vessel as much as last year. But to give you an idea here, so this is a federal grant program. It's with the Office of the Conservation Investment. It's kind of going through like a rebrand. It's actually the U.S. Fish. U.S. Fish. The Sports Fish Restoration and Boating Trust Fund is where that fund comes from. But it's, let's see. For the actual grant itself, in terms of what it goes towards a couple of different categories. I would say that probably the bigger ones is going to be the development and kind of maintaining and improving pump out stations, as well as just any waste that may come from recreational boaters. It's something that's really important to keep in mind. In that case, just to kind of inform the public. So that's going to be the second kind of category. There is going to be more education about educating the public on just kind of the dangers and environmental issues that may come from polluting our waterways. I think it's also really important to kind of keep in mind the fact that, you know, the less water we have, the more important it is to try and maintain it and keeping it healthy. So that's something to keep in mind there. And some of those eligible items that is covered under CVA, I kind of mentioned them a little bit already there, but it's going to be the installation of new pump out stations. That could be holding tanks, dump stations, or portable toilets. I know that ideally, I think we're trying to stray away from portable toilets. Just doesn't seem like as we get as much use out of them from the general public. And maybe Ty, you can kind of speak on that a little bit. I know that was a conversation we had previously. And then there's just general maintenance. I think as of right now, we're looking more in terms of like deferred maintenance, making sure that everything that we currently have is working and up and running, whether that's, you know, your pump out stations or your floating restrooms. We had a few of those. There's some in Flaming Gorge. There's another one in Lake Powell that I know of for sure. Just to kind of give you a general idea there. It's also kind of goes towards like the connections. So like the installations of the docks that support those pump out stations. And again, just kind of educational awareness for the general public and just trying to maintain our waterways. That's kind of like a really quick overview of what CVA kind of is. And I can pass it off here to Craig just to kind of speak a little bit on boating access.
Sure. Thanks, Jorge. So boating access is a program that is run out of the Division of Wildlife Resources. It used to be motorized boating access, motorboat access. Now it is inclusive of non-motorized access as well as of 2008. It is a program that we handle, but that is run by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service as part of their Dingle Johnson Wallop Bro federal funding program. We are provided in the Division of Wildlife Resources approximately $900,000 annually. Outdoor Rec is gracious enough to provide the 25% match requirement to leverage all of those funds every year. So we roll with around $1.2 million annually, give or take, every year that we can put forward to boating access projects. Boating access projects in the state of Utah entail boat ramps, boat parking, anything associated with boating access that you can possibly think of. We could probably squeeze in as eligible under that grant, including fish cleaning stations, porta-johns, etc. So be thinking broadly as we look at what are 19 projects this year. I think there's 19. There's some replication in some of the BLM submissions, so bear with, but I'm pretty sure there are 19. Those 19 projects will be put forward to you in an upcoming meeting, and my understanding is tonight is just to provide you with an overview of the scoring that we will be using to rank those projects, rate those projects. Even with $1.2 million, we are not going to be able to fund all 19 projects. We need to draw a balance between ongoing efforts as far as phased projects where we've already invested in earlier phases. Additionally, we also have administrative requirements. I'll call them internal projects that we're funding. Boat Utah, which I believe you were all presented with last year, is one of those ongoing projects that would, in my mind, need to be buoyed up to the top. As an advisory council, we will take your recommendations and your scoring into our decision-making process. But at the end of the day, being a government agency overseeing the grant program, it is our decision, and we may discount some of your suggestions on things like administrative grants related to Boat Utah if you rank them low. Just out of necessity, we need to make sure that those get funded and do have a continual pulse to them. I can't think of anything else other than, Jorge, I don't know if you wanted to introduce the actual rubric that you put together for both voting access and CVA, which will be helpful for you all to view. Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, as far as non-motorized, does this also include running waters versus still water or flat water projects?
Correct. Rivers, streams, reservoirs, lakes, doesn't matter. If it floats, it's a boat, and we're all about access for things that float. So,
and could this also money be used to remove navigational hazards or create portages around hazards?
correct. Yeah. So navigational aids, the installation, the movement of those aids seasonally, with waters that recede in our reservoirs, as you all know, can sometimes fluctuate up to 60, 80 feet a year. We need to make sure that those buoy lines are moved. That's eligible. Things like dredging are actually eligible under the boating access grant. Not that we've pursued those, because that would not only eat up probably the 1.2 million, but probably multiple years worth of funding. So like I said, if you can think about it benefiting either paddlecraft or motorized boats, it's going to be likely eligible. The only thing that we struggle with is things that do not afford public access. This is a public boating access funding pot. If we're talking about boating improvements, boating access improvements on private ground that does not afford public access, that is not eligible. For municipalities or other entities, governmental agencies putting in for the grants, it is a requirement that the money that they accrue as revenue from the use of those access sites, those access improvements, be put back into the maintenance of those access improvements. So that's something we want to document. I can't think of any other real limitations right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Craig. I am just going to share. This is essentially going to be the next item on the agenda, just for everyone's awareness.
I would say just do what you need to do. The rest of the meeting agenda is yours.
Just making sure. Let's see. I can pull up the first one that I got here is going to be Clean Vessel Act. My computer's just being a little slow here. But this is all something that's going to be on our a shared folder. I'm going to provide a folder for everyone to have. It's going to have, there's going to be two main folders. It's going to be the boating access grant folder. It's going to have all of those applications. As when I get
no, ask.
Sorry.
Go ahead, keep going, Jorge.
Okay. So we'll have, I'll go back a little bit. So we'll have those two applications, or not applications, the two main folders. It's going to be the Clean Vessel Act folder and then the Boating Access folder. That's going to have your applications as well as the form that we're going to have you fill out that's going to help rank those projects. But just real quickly to go over the scoring rubric, it's going to assess on a few different things here for Clean Vessel Act. And it's on kind of a Likert scale is what we have here from 1 to 7. Just to kind of give you a quick idea, it's very poor to excellent, 1 to 7 again. Those categories here, it's going to be the environmental need and sewage risk, and it's kind of more focused on deferred maintenance. As I had mentioned, that's something that we're looking a little bit more towards. And then we have clean boating impact as another one. Budget and match, whether they actually have their match, and something else to keep in mind if an applicant comes in with their own match instead of requesting from us as a division, that makes it a little bit stronger of an application. Operation and maintenance, more looking at towards like the longevity of the project, and if they're thinking about those long-term strategies to maintain it. Education and outreach, planning and partnerships, project narrative, and then the attachments if they have everything that's kind of essential that they need to be successful. That's going to be that first one for Clean Vessel Act. And then let me pull up Boating Act. Is there any questions before I move on that one?
Hey, Jorge,
Yes.
having a little bit of an issue that you kind of dropped off there for a second and froze, at least on our side. Was the rest of the council able to hear? I just know that Adam was not able to hear that last comment he kind of put in there.
Am I cutting out here then?
Is that? I can hear it. Yeah, you're good? Okay, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. And then just double checking here real quickly. No questions on boating access, correct? Or clean vessel?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay. Boating access, we kind of structured it a bit similar to what we did with clean vessel. We did the same thing, so that Likert scale, so from 1 to 7, 1 being very poor and then 7 being excellent. We were taking a look at the project need, and again, these are kind of all based on the actual applications themselves. So to try and kind of help that process, I know that was something that was kind of discussed in last year's meeting, where the scoring rubric didn't necessarily match as well as with what we had on the application. So we tried to do that here. So for this one, boating access grant, we have the project need, actually addressing the need, and then the benefit to existing fish and wildlife resources, and then the general public, project and approach, budget, operation and maintenance, and again, those attachments that kind of follow along and go along with that. It's just a very, very quick kind of look there. And again, I'll be sending this all out to everybody for review. Craig, is there anything else that you'd like to maybe add on to boating access for this one?
No, I think Jorge and Patrick did a great job. We met earlier and I was somewhat contentious in my approach to dealing with what they put up initially. I didn't want to leave anything to chance as far as any sort of subjectivity being brought into the process. I think you guys did an excellent job of creating a very objective first cut for this. I envision us morphing next year's proposals off of this as far as the requirements for each of the boating access proposals and the information that is needed for those proposals. There may be some tweaking. I think Jorge, Patrick, and I will probably be discussing this with you all as far as, creating something that is maybe even more robust than this moving forward. Maybe speaking to the economic benefit of boating to rural communities in Utah, which is one of the things that we want to address. The other thing we'd also like to address, and Jorge alluded to it, is the issue of deferred maintenance. And I think that's all going to come to fruition once the data is entered into the Boat Utah inventory tool that will allow us to take stock in what we have on the landscape, what needs to be maintained, repaired, and what we can afford to put on the landscape that is new. yeah, generally speaking, I think it's great. I just wanted to throw out there, I have it down on my to-do list to create clean versions of what was submitted via the form stack application for boating access project proposals. And I'll be handing those off on December 17th to Jorge to put into that folder.
Jeff.
So Craig and Jorge, were the 19 applicants, were they also pre-screened? I know I've been on some other grant committees where there's a kind of a first filtering by staff to make sure that the basic eligibility requirements are met. Is that where we're at with the 19 applicants for boating access?
No, these are raw. These are as submitted. We
Okay.
haven't done any sort of course filtration before you all see them.
And then we'll be getting that information on this after the 17th of December, but we're going to be meeting on what, the 6th? So we have a pretty short timeline then to turn around and provide our comments and scoring, it sounds like.
Short is in the eye of the beholder. it being the 2nd of December and me having to do cleanup, I might be able to fast track them while trying to take some time off before I burn all of my annual leave and have it go away. So I don't know. I mentioned this to Jorge and Patrick the other day. They felt that this duration of review was reasonable. My question to you all, and a little bit of pushback, if we get them to you earlier, are you going to review them earlier, or are we going to adhere to typical human practices and wait till the last minute anyway?
Well, Craig, my concern is that we'll be asked to do this over holidays, and I don't know what other people's holiday plans are, but I know from previous experience on grant committee, being asked to review during the holidays was not very successful. So I just throw that out there if anybody's thought about what happens during holiday time.
I will leave it up to Jorge and Patrick to make a call. From a governmental standpoint, I'm more of just an informational guy on this committee anyway. So I will do their bidding if they feel that it needs to be fast tracked.
You have my support, Craig, in the sense if you need any help with that back end, I can help you out. Just to kind of put it out there, I don't mind helping you out just any way that I can. But I just kind of just depends there. And then I know DeWitt has a question, and then George.
Yeah, could I get a little more clarification on the number 4 item, which is the benefit to existing fish and wildlife? How does that relate to paddle sports and sailing and the goals of the fish and wildlife resources? How does boating access?
Sure. I'll throw it out there. One thing that we've been talking to it about recently is the impact of shoreline erosion to spawning smallmouth bass, and the impact of shoreline erosion to fish populations in general, the impact of some of our larger ballast carrying watercraft to other boaters out there that are fishing and maybe using electronics or hanging out near the shore. When we talk about the balance between wanting to have recreational boating opportunities that do not impinge on the use of the reservoir for fishing and the fish populations that are being targeted by our anglers, I believe that's what that line item is trying to address.
Okay, I don't get how those 4 examples have anything to do with low speed watercraft. Is that making any sense? shoreline erosion isn't created by sailboats or paddlecraft. So I'm trying to measure a project's benefit to the existing fish and wildlife resources, but they really don't apply to the type of watercraft I'm supposed to be representing.
I think something to kind of keep in mind in here as well is where the money comes from. Because if I'm correct right here, Craig, I might need some help here, but it comes from some fishing funds as well, correct?
It's primarily excise tax related to boat sales, boating equipment sales, and fuel is primarily where this comes from. I think this is a hangover from us as a division of wildlife resources overseeing the grant. We want to make sure that we are not impacting the resource that we manage that is accessed via motorized and non-motorized craft by, simply opening it up to impactful activities. And this is definitely something that has come up nationally. DeWitt, as far as benefit to existing fish and wildlife resources and or the public, what we're talking about is, let's say, the public access that is in your bailiwick, non-motorized craft being potentially impacted by motorized craft. So it's not just the fish and wildlife resources, it's also the public. And we don't want to have one component of the boating community running roughshod on another component of the boating community by funding, activities that we know are going to be impactful to, say, that other element out there.
George?
Okay, well, thank you for that. Maybe a little more definition there as to your existing resources that you want to protect. And certainly I want to protect shoreline erosion and quality of water and all of those other kinds of things as a sailor. But to try to score a project from my perspective is kind of difficult, because I really don't think the sailboats and paddle sports impact those things you spoke to.
And that's fair to it, and we appreciate the honest dialogue here, and so that's helpful. And it's also partially, again, one of the questions that was on the application that we had on there, and so maybe seeing the application will help maybe connect a little bit better. If it doesn't, after you see the application, I could probably actually send it over so that way y'all can see it, and maybe that can help kind of see why that's in the scoring rubric here today. And if not, we can maybe look at some changes here. So.
Yeah, and DeWitt, your thoughts are spot on. I think that moving forward, this was a first cut. Moving forward, as we develop the scoring sheet that you see in front of you and refine it, we can tweak it, modify it, make sure that it addresses in an equitable fashion all the different components of the boating community.
Okay, George.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to comment on the scoring. I know there's some concerns about timing, but I think once you get used to using this rubric to score projects, it's going to go a lot quicker than you think. We've done this before in other projects, and it goes, once you understand what you're doing, it goes really quick. So I think depending on the complexity of the projects, it shouldn't take that long.
Ty?
Thank you, George.
Yeah, just wanted to kind of kick in here, just going back onto the number 4, the benefit portion. some of the historical things, and Craig, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but it was a lot of, are we improving the access for those, for either anglers or, you know, what is the benefit if we're making wider ramps so we can get more people to go out and access this particular area and have those. I think in past times we've looked at that as what is the benefit for the angling aspect of it too. I mean, there's a recreational thing, but the one that you kind of hit here is I think this is a little bit of a swing from what we've done in the past. It seemed that it was trying to benefit access for anglers or for angling.
But I think that, again, if you look at that question, you can almost view it as two different tracks. One is if it is speaking to things like erosion protection, whatever it is, that will benefit the existing fish and wildlife resources out there. That's one track. But also, is it benefiting the public? So the non-angling component. And I think that, you know, if I were to refine this just out of the box, which we're not going to do this year, I don't think, I'd split it into two. And just leave it lay. And you're going to have some projects that score high for benefits to existing fish and wildlife resources, and you're going to have some that score high for the general public. But again, I think that discussion is for a later meeting when we refine these scoring rubrics and use them moving forward.
Thanks, Ty. Thanks, Craig.
So maybe I can chime in also. So benefit to the public could mean a lot of more than just maybe two tracks from what Craig was saying. And I know that at our Stillwater waters, there's a lot of conflict between the motorized and non-motorized boaters at the ramps. And so a project, for example, that separates and has non-motorized or trolling motor type of float tube ramp access or entry access separated from the speed boats and the ski boats and the personal watercrafts, that could be a benefit to the public to not have the conflicts and people fighting with each other. Something like on the Jordan River, you know, removing a navigational hazard for paddle sport boating, that could be a benefit to the public. And it's also safety, right? So I think benefit could be in the future widened up into, you know, more than maybe even just two tracks.
Thanks, Jeff. Is there any other, I know there was one more comment that we had here from George. He was mentioning that there's a great example of this with the extra ramp at Red Fleet Reservoir to enable non-motorized craft to launch without impacting the motorized users. Which exactly. I see Jeff shaking his head too, so.
That's exactly one of the big issues statewide, is that conflict of just logistically getting, it takes longer for some types of boating to get, you know, their equipment out on the water, and some boaters it's a lot faster, and some people have to sit in line and wait for the slower constituents, and it just, there's just conflict at the ramps all over the state.
Okay. Thanks everybody for the comments on those. It looks like we have one more from DeWitt.
Yeah, just a prime example of that. It takes about an hour for me to put the mast up and to rig the boat before I get it in the water. And that on a single ramp is, well, I've gotten a few comments and physical gestures.
I apologize, Whit. That was me.
No offers to help you move faster.
Okay. Awesome. I'll be moving on. I'll be showing you the folders, and I'll be real quick here. I don't think it should be take too long. The structures again set out similarly as one to the other. So again, this was a scoring rubric, and I will be sharing my screen on what I have here for the folders. So I have, again, let's see, what I have right here is the Clean Vessel Act folder that I'll be sharing with you all. More specifically, the applications themselves. As I'd mentioned before, we only have 2 applications, so it should be fairly quick on that one. Not too bad, not too long. But if we look at one of the application folders that we have here, we have just the general, everything that was kind of submitted to us. And then I put together one big folder that has the entire application. So that's going to be the full application, is if you want to view the entire thing in its entirety. If you want to look at bits and pieces of it, depending, it might be easier for you to look at it, whether it's bits and pieces or if it's the full application. I have it laid out here for you, whether that you want to look at letters of support, maps, pictures, the site plans, the W-9, or you can just take a look at the full application, just to give you a quick overview with that. And as I mentioned, there's 2 applications, and then we have the actual scoring form that you're all going to have access to. Let me share this one as well. So this is the folder, the form itself. And we have the instructions at the top here. This first link right here, it's going to be the scoring matrix. So it's going to take you to the Clean Vessel Act scoring matrix. The second link is going to take you to the actual application folders. So you can look at all the applications that we have submitted. And then this last one is more of a tracking sheet for you to keep track of which applications you have done already, and which ones you still need to do. This is tied to everybody. So if I can click on this one real quick, just to kind of give you an idea of what this one looks like. So for instance, as I've mentioned before, it's just to track whether you've done the application or not. The X's are meant for the project names. It has the 2 tabs. So you have the boating access applications, and then you have the Clean Vessel Act applications. If you click on the Clean Vessel Act applications, it'll have the AP number, so you can find it if you need to look for it in the actual folders, and then the project name, and then you just check it off if you've done it. And it's just left blank if you hadn't done it yet. So it's just more of a way just to kind of help you track those applications. You don't have to use this. It's up to you. What you decide on what you want to use. And then again, just real quickly, I'll go over one of the forms, and then the boating access grant is structured exactly the same way. I just don't have the applications in their folders. Just to go through it real quickly, you'll fill out your first and last name, which application you're evaluating. This helps us track it there. So for instance, let's say you did the Bear Lake Marina, and then you would go back and forth between the scoring matrix. So you take a look at the matrix. These all line up with the matrix here. So it's the environmental need and deferred maintenance. And I'd have to pull up the scoring matrix again. I just to kind of show you, but it goes back and forth there. The 1 being poor, and then 7 being excellent, the best application there. The actual scores here is what's going to be required. You can leave a comment just to kind of add additional context to the reason why you scored it. You can leave it blank there, and then it just goes through each of those sections. You'll have the clean boating impact, budget and match, and then the comment, operation and maintenance of the comment, education and outreach, and so on and so forth. And then there's 4 more questions that we have at the bottom that we made required in terms of looking at the project strengths, project weaknesses, and then how you would rank it in terms of funding priority. We have the high, medium, and low, funding rationale, and then just any additional comments. I added that question at the bottom. Anything else that you felt like you needed to add. As I'd mentioned before, voting access is structured the exact same way in terms of the way that you're going to evaluate them. It's just a Google form that you'll submit. And an important thing to know, one Google form per application. So you'd have to do this for Clean Vessel Act. You have to do this 2 times. For voting access, you'd have to fill out this form 19 times. Just to kind of give you a quick idea. And I can go through voting access real quickly if you'd really like me to, but as I mentioned, it's structured the same way. And Patrick.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Jorge. I think maybe one other thing to add on this one is, generally we have these kind of like in our portal and you can have access to kind of review them, but often with Google Forms, right, you hit send and then it's just gone. You're just like, okay, I wish I could refer back to it. So we tried to get a setting on the back end. So that's why we're having you enter your email. So once you submit it, it should send you a copy of your responses. So, in your inbox, you could, maybe flag them, somehow label them if you are curious to go back. I think those can just be really helpful to review before the scoring meeting. But again, we will have all the responses. So when it does come time to the scoring meeting, we can pull all of that and get it all organized. But so don't, hopefully you won't be too frustrated if you are getting, I guess, 21 emails when you complete these forms, but it's just so that way you can review what you put in. And you should have the opportunity, maybe you get to number, 15 of voting access and you're just like, you know what, I was way too hard at the beginning. You should be able to use those emails as well to go to that response and click back in, and then you can edit it, and at some point we'll close it all. But yeah, I just try to work with Jorge and bake in a little bit of flexibility and a review process for you before the scoring meeting. So just keep that in mind.
Thanks, Patrick. And with that, I think that's basically it there. Do you any questions or concerns, thoughts?
I just have a comment. If that's all right.
Yes.
I personally like to go and read, like if there's 19 of them, I'm going to go and read all 19 and then go back and score them, just so that you can try to avoid that, what Patrick was saying, that you might be a little harsh and get an idea. That's what I did last time, is went through and read them all, then went back and said, all right, prioritized them, made little notes, and then went back and scored each one. So that helped me quite a bit. I think it gave each grant, a chance to fully be heard. So instead of just starting at one and going through and scoring it, I think you're doing a disservice if you don't do the time just to go through and read them all, see what they're about, and then go back and score.
That's a really good point and structure there. Thanks, Adam. Jeff?
Yeah, I would throw this out for everybody on the committee that given the holidays, you'll want to make sure and budget some time for this. I mean, if you want to do a good job, like Adam's saying, you have to read through them first, maybe do your own preliminary scoring, and then you kind of go through and then do your final scoring. It's going to take a day or two. And so if you try to do it all at once, it may not be very effective either. It might be the type of thing where you have to kind of spread yourself out and do 2 or 3 a day. And so I just want to throw that out for everybody to think about your time during the holiday season and make sure that you do budget a sufficient time in your own method, however you chose to do this scoring, so that we do a fair job for all the applicants.
Thanks, Jeff. Is there any other questions, comments, concerns before we move on there?
I had one more question follow-up. So last year on the voting access, we funded everything, and there was some additional funding that was going to make sure that we were going to fund all the projects, if I recall the situation. So how are we going to handle it this time, Craig, when we have obviously more applicants than we did last year, and how are we going to handle it this time?
Well, my thought would be with the scores coming in a fairly objective way, that we would be able to then examine kind of the top tier, the mid tier, and the lower tier, and make sure that everybody was in consensus as we worked our way down the list. If there was some contention as far as someone believing that a lower ranked project did deserve to be buoyed up into the funding category, if you will, that's what that meeting is for, is to have those discussions and debates about that. You know, I think DeWitt brought up a great point, is we want to make sure that we have equitable situations between the very different portions of the boating community. We don't want to solely invest in things that are beneficial to fishing. We don't want to solely invest in things that are, you know, ski boat oriented. We don't want to solely invest in motorized. So that's something we need to be cognizant of, as, you know, if we notice that there's an issue with the scoring rubric driving, say, non-motorized projects to a lower rank, then we need to have that discussion in there and make sure that they get their just desserts in that meeting.
Does that help, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious this time around we're going to have some harder choices and some harder discussions and scoring than we did last year. So we should all be braced for that.
Yeah, no, completely fair. Zach.
Yeah, I just had a question. Apologies if I missed this, but based on last year's grants, for example, are there any kind of closeout or summary of the impact following the grant being implemented and completed? I know some of those maybe are ongoing, but I was just curious as far as kind of data points over historic grants, just to allow that to somewhat impact scoring going forward. Like this turned out to have a much bigger impact than was anticipated, or, you know, and I know that's kind of not saying it should be a big effort to do that, but I'm just curious if there's any sort of feedback loop on those grants that have been issued in the past.
Yeah, so every year we're required to report via a system called Tracks, which is a Fish and Wildlife Service reporting tool that's designed to do just that. The issue we have right now is there's about a 2-year lag on completion of projects based upon the delays that the federal government has been seeing over the past few years. So what we're supposed to get in the way of July 1 funding, we don't hear about until November, which we miss an entire construction season, and that protracts that process, right? Which then delays the actual, you know, accrual of the benefit by then another year. So we're 2 to 3 years out, I would say. And for that reason, we don't have a lot to say, because I think 3 years ago, correct me if I'm wrong, we took a year off.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, just curious.
But in the future, I think it's a great lead up to the meeting is to actually have those discussions about, here's just a brief summary of what we were able to accomplish and the benefits that are being seen from that. I think the one that we're actually going to see somewhat immediate benefits on this year is Strawberry Reservoir. We got a lot of complaints over the past 2 to 3 years about the condition of the access points, the boating access points at Strawberry Reservoir. And we ended up funding last year, I think you all approved funding of 4 projects, if I remember correctly. So that level of investment at one water body is going to definitely gain traction with the public, and they're going to notice it for sure.
Jeff?
Yeah, earlier I think I misspoke about the funding and funding all the projects. I think what we did last year is that we found that there were a couple of elements of at least 1 or 2 projects that were not eligible for the funding. And so those elements were supposed to be removed, the application amended to make sure that all the projects could be funded to their maximum ability. So as we review these applications, how are we to know whether any of the elements of these projects are eligible or not? Are you going to do any kind of pre-screening for us to let us know ahead of time?
We'll go through the scoring process as is, I think
Okay.
similar to what we did last year. And then I'm there as kind of referee from my understanding of eligibility to let you in on, we might be able to make this move up a notch by removing these 2 or 3 things. I think the other thing we need to be cognizant of is the fact that a lot of these projects, even though we describe or we try to have the applicants describe potential phasing of projects, a lot of the projects come in as just, we want everything. We want, $750,000 worth of whatever, when they could be phased and pared down into something that was more palatable, which when we do that kind of commingling of phased projects, we might be able to get more things done across a broader geographic area than if we were to fund everything fully right out of the chute. So,
yeah, because I remember at Utah Lake State Park, there was the private moorage, and that was supposed to be ineligible. And so taking that one element out of their budget helped us get to that target.
And then I just got one more thing here, just real quickly. It's just more of a transparency kind of thing with, I did say 2 applications, but in a way we're going to have maybe like a 3rd one, just because we as a division are wanting to apply to Clean Vessel Act to get funding for just administratively, just to kind of help out with that, because we're not actually getting any funding for the administration of Clean Vessel Act. But the more that we do, the more we want to just make sure that we're able to continue to grow it and do a little bit better there. So that's not actually an application that we have on here, but it's more of like a call to the Boating Advisory Council in the way to just kind of see what your thoughts and what you think would be the best way to kind of present that to you all. Do you think just maybe the same kind of structure as what we're doing here with the normal applications? And maybe Patrick and Ty can add some commentary to that as well. We were looking at certain things in terms of how much of my time has been going into Clean Vessel Act and that sort of thing there.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on, a lot of the grants that we administer, Recreational Trails Program, Land and Water Conservation Fund, these federal programs have some form of allowance for administrative, sometimes it's 2%, sometimes it's 4%. As we looked into Clean Vessel, there is an opportunity to just simply apply for those administrative funds. And so, I think it was just a matter, we'd want you to approve it and feel comfortable with it. I mean, I would assume, quite a modest amount of money, because we will be looking at, a portion of Jorge's time, so, but I think the important thing was, what nature would you like to see that as a form to approve it as a potential one, if you did approve it? We could write up an application. I think it's going to be a little difficult to write an application, in Clean Vessel for administrative funds, but this was just kind of the primers. It's something that we do plan to prepare and ask for and would seek your approval. So.
Right. So do we have any other aspects of the overview or questions, comments, concerns? So I think we've reached our 1 hour. We're going a little bit over. So I think we might take a motion for adjourning.
Before you do that, Jeff, can I just really quickly say thank you to the Boating Advisory Council for dedicating the time and their expertise in scoring these. Thanks, Craig, too, for helping get the scoring rubric all dialed into what your guys' requirements are. It means a lot to us, taking your time to not only be here at a meeting like this, but to take time to review all of these and make sure that they are scored according to your own responsibilities on the council. So just thank you. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that also. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Larson. I'll make it.
So moved by John Larson. Second.
I second that. This is Zach.
Zach Williams, second. Okay, there is no discussion on a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to continue on?
I don't get to say aye, but I'll say bye.
thank you,
Have a good
everybody.
night, everybody.
Appreciate your time tonight, and I hope you all have fun scoring during your holiday time.